Hey everyone, welcome to Forest County Outback. Now, I don't have my cameraman today, but we'll get by, and weather doesn't bother me. I actually like the winter. And bear season starts tomorrow. So today we're going to go back to the early years of the lumber industry, and we're going to look at a couple of neat artifacts from that time period, and then we're going to talk about getting accurate information. This is Forest County Outback number 9, Cobbs Canal. Today we're at Gamelands 24 at the site of Golinza. And Golinza was a lumbering town. Of course, now there's nothing left of it. It's part of the Gamelands, it's food plots and a shooting range. You know, it's mostly remembered as part of the Teddy Collins empire, but before Collins owned it, it was owned by the Fords and Lacey's. And in 1866, there was reportedly a sawmill, a boarding house, and one home. In 1866, a guy named John Cobbs came here and took up the sawing contract for a period of 10 years. Now, he was a native of Vermont, born in 1815, and he eventually migrated to northern Pennsylvania, took up the lumber trade, and he was considered a very innovative, forward-thinking operator, and he and his sons were very active here in the Coon Creek watershed. They had at least 2 other mills, and we're going to be visiting those sites eventually. Now, whether Cobb just took over the mill that was here or he built a new one, that's not entirely certain. I'm leaning towards he built a new mill, because he was into the latest technology. And they had something like the gang saw here was like 16 saws. And what we're looking at when I say the Cobb Canal is this trench here. This stretches about a mile upstream to a dam, and this was the water supply for the mill. Now it came down here. This was the end of the canal, and it went out this outlet here into a wooden flume, and the mill was down there at the bottom of that hill, and the flume went across the roof of the mill and then onto a water wheel. This is a water power mill, onto a water wheel that was reportedly 25 feet in diameter and 20 feet wide. Unfortunately, we don't have any photos of that. That would be something to see. That must have been quite the setup there. So Cobb did not finish his contract. After a few years, he kind of lost interest in it. He was approaching 70 years old at that time, and that was for that time period, that was considered pretty elderly. And you know, he was probably getting a little tired, and the mill sat empty for several years. And then when Collins bought it, he tore it down and built a new mill right on the same spot. So any sign of the original mill is going to be obliterated, but we're going to come back here on another time and do a video about the Collins era, and we'll be looking down there looking for the mill. In the meantime, we are going to take a look at the canal. Now, as I said, this stretched for a mile upstream, and it was built by a contractor named John Flynn. So I guess you could reasonably call it the Flynn Canal also, or Flynn's Canal. But think about the amount of labor that went into this. The right-of-way had to be cleared, the stumps had to be pulled, and then this had to be dug. And if you've done any digging around this area, it's not easy. Even with a backhoe, it's not easy. So like I said, this was the area, this would have been the area where the mill was, but the subsequent building would have obliterated any sign of it. Although we can still see remains of the later mill. But today we're here, like I said, to look at the canal and the dam and talk about the first operation here. Now keep in mind, they did not float logs down here. This was strictly to power the sawmill. Now they did float logs down the creek, and they used the dam as a splash dam to raise the water level for that. Now this shot is interesting to me because on the right you've got the canal, and to the left here, this is a railroad grade. When Collins owned it, he ran logging railroad up here. So, and over that way is a modern haul road. So you've really got the three phases of the lumbering industry here, going from the water power to the steam, over to the present. Now this section, the canal right here, there was a short section here where they actually had to build a wooden flume across here to carry the water because of the lay of the land. Okay, we're getting up close to the end of the canal, and I've been calling it a canal. I guess really the proper term would be mill race. But the dam is right up here. So this is the end of the canal, and there's see, the railroad grade was built on top of it and right through, but the dam is right there. Is right here, and there would have been some kind of wooden water control structure in here to regulate the flow into the canal. And when I first did my Facebook video on this, I couldn't find the dam. Well, I actually ate lunch on top of it right over here, and I didn't recognize it for what it was. This thing with the railroad grade kind of messed things up. But we'll look at that, and then we're going to go to the other side of the creek, and there's a lot more dam over there to see. So this is one end of the dam, and there would have been a wooden bracket across the stream here, because not only did they use it for the canal, they also used it as a splash dam to float logs. They would stock the pond behind here with logs, because normally the stream wasn't deep enough to float logs. There would be a wooden bracket across here. So they cut that and make a rise to the water so they could float down here. But you can see how the dam was constructed here. And I don't know if they're visible. There were some timbers in the creek on the other side. Probably can't see them now. We'll go over here and take a look at the back side of the dam. See that the sun came out. It's shining on the on our video. Isn't that wonderful? Okay, there's a timber sticking out of the bank on this side. They would build a timber framework as a base and then fill it up with logs and dirt, or not rocks and dirt. More timbers here. You see that one has a notch for a tenon cut in the end of it over there. Okay, we're over by that dam now on the other side of the creek, and it's impressive from this side. It truly is. And they moved. Oh, okay, cut. Okay, we're in front of that dam on the other side of the creek, and when you see the amount of rock that they moved for this thing, it is truly impressive. And it goes on down that way. And what's interesting is this area here, you may not be able to see it because of the trees, but this has been dug out. They dug this out for fill for that dam. Let's get a better look at it. This is the area they dug out. The material to build that dam. Now if you can see the planking along there. You can see the timbers here. So that one looks like it broke off. And there's the other end of the dam over there. More timbers. And there's a big one back there. Goes up under. It's been catching debris floating down. And there's that planking over there. You know what? And this stuff, look at this. This is still solid. Amazing. So that's Cobbs Canal and the dam. I want to talk a minute about having good information. When I'm out here doing these videos and telling the stories, I really do strive to be accurate. And it's not, sometimes it doesn't happen. When I started doing these videos 2 years ago, I thought I knew a lot about Forest County history, and I did. But when I started doing serious research for these videos, I found out that there was a lot I didn't know. And some of the stuff that I thought I knew, I didn't know that either. Perfect example was the grave out at Dead Man's Corners. There was a lot of stories floating around about how that grave came to be there. And I was perpetuating one that turned out to be wrong. And the reason was, the person who told it to me had always been such a reliable source. Well, it turns out he got that one wrong. The truth was lurking in the archives of the Forest Republican, and I've since confirmed some aspects of that story through other sources. Another example was the search for the Campbell and Ritz sawmill. I had a newer book with a map and a description, and that had me looking 2 miles upstream from where the mill actually turned out to be. I spent 2 days out there stomping around the bottomlands, the thickets and the swamps of Salmon Creek, not finding a thing, and I'd given up. Thought it wouldn't be found. A couple months later, I got a vintage map with a location for that. I drove out there, parked the truck, walked 50 yards in the woods, and there it was. And I've since found out there's a lot of inaccuracies in that book. So you really have to do the research. And once you've done the research, you've got to do the legwork. Nothing beats boots on the ground. That's, you know, the way it is. So that's one reason I'm redoing my old Facebook videos over, because I've learned so much new stuff. And I've learned that I've put out some inaccurate information, and I'm correcting that. You know, I want to tell the story, and I want to tell it right. So, I really enjoy doing this. It's semi-retired, and this has actually become like a second career. Now, when I do a video, okay, research is always ongoing. But when I do a video and I focus on something I'm going to do a video on, I kind of focus on that drill down deeper. And between the research, travel time, filming the videos, editing, I get about 2 days. It takes me roughly 2 days to do a 20 to 30 minute video. So spending 2 days on futile stomping around in the woods, that's kind of a time sink. I've got a busy schedule here. I actually have two subjects that I'm gathering information on that I would like to write books on eventually. So yeah, having good information right from the get-go is really, really important. So I hope that you find these videos informative. Hope you find them entertaining, and I hope you enjoy watching them as much as I do producing them. So I've said this repeatedly, I'll say it again. If you like what you're watching, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, comment, share, and we'll see you in the next one. This is the world famous Nebraska Bridge flood stage, November 19th, 2022. Ghost town of Golinza. Of course, Golinza, there's nothing left now. Where the town site was, or food plots and a shooting range. But so today we're at Gamelands 20. Today we're at Gamelands 24 at the site of the lumbering town of Golinza for his time. And where was I going with this? I don't remember. And in 1866, did I mention the shooting range? In 1866,